Hey guys, if this is your first time to my channel, hello and welcome. My name is Emily and today I am bringing you a Mad Science makeup on the brand new Smashbox and Vlada collab highlighters. Hello everyone, and yes, it is Mad Science makeup time yet again. So today I wanted to actually do something a little bit different with the Mad Science makeup. I wanted to attempt to recreate a highlighter that I already have in my collection and that I have recently reviewed on my channel. I'm going to be attempting to recreate the brand new Smashbox and Vlada MUA collaboration, the Petal Metal Highlighter in the shade Gilded Rose. I know, it seems pretty crazy that I would try to recreate something as stunning as this, but if you watched my review on this specific product, I found it to be really sheer, and I found it to be not super buildable and not super amazing in my personal opinion for the type of highlighter that I usually like to go for. I thought this was a good highlighter for people who really like editorial looks or a specific type of look where you're going for a more sheer type of highlight, and a highlight that you can basically really only see when you're out and about in the sunlight and out in the natural lighting. And there's nothing wrong with that. You do you, but I personally like a really blinding highlight, so this wasn't exactly my cup of tea. If you'd like to see a full review on this guy, I will go ahead and link it in the cards. But last night when I was going through my collection of things, trying to figure out what I'm going to do for Mad Science makeup today, I came across this shade right here, which I have used for Mad Science makeup before. This is the highlighter from Looxi Beauty in the shade Rebel Rose. And this gave me the Vlada MUA highlighter vibes so much. This has kind of like a pinky gold bronze duochrome thing happening here. And I just swatched the Vlada shade on my finger. And it's not 100% of course, but they're giving me similar vibes. The Vlada shade is like a pinky, golden, almost like bronzy duochrome shade. Definitely a lot more pinky than the Rebel Rose shade, but they're giving me a similar vibe. So I figured that I would try to recreate this highlighter because that Rebel Rose shade looks pretty promising to me, and I feel like I can make something very similar out of that. So I also came across my Fenty Beauty Mean Money and Hustla Baby highlighter. Hustla Baby is the more peachy metallic shade in the split pan, and this shade right here is Mean Money, which is more of the sheer kind of glossy, almost to me like a finishing powder, if you will. It's got kind of like a sheen to it, but it's not very metallic at all. And I noticed with the Vlada highlighter, the Smashbox highlighter in Petal Metal, that it had a very sheer base to it. And I figured this would be perfect to lighten up the Rebel Rose shade and to add a little bit more of a kind of pinkiness to it, because it's got a little bit of a peachy pink sheen. But for me, this highlighter is really, really sheer. As you can see on my finger there, we have barely any pigment. And I will just swatch it right above Rebel Rose. This probably won't translate very well on camera because that is so sheer, but it's like a light kind of beigey, pinky sheer sheen, if you will. And I think that that will mix really nicely with the Looxi highlighter to make something very similar to the Vlada MUA highlighter. And of course today we are going to need the same tools as we always do. I have my little spatula here. I have a mixing tray, little napkin to wipe my spatula off onto when we get further in the process and things start getting pretty messy, because trust me, they always get messy. And then last but not least, I have this little syringe here that has some rubbing alcohol in it, and I like to use this syringe because it helps me to control how much rubbing alcohol I actually put into my product. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take Rebel Rose by Looxi Beauty, and I'm gonna scoop out maybe about 1/3 of the product there. This is what we are looking at after I've scooped out about 1/3 of the Looxi Beauty highlight. As you can see, some of it was gone already, and that's because I have used it for a Mad Science makeup before. Now I'm going to be picking up the Fenty Beauty Kilowatt highlighter in Mean Money. And I'm going to add a decent amount of this because I really want to lighten the Looxi Beauty shade because it is so deep and pretty bronzy, and this will add a little bit of pinkiness to it, and it will lighten it up quite a lot. And one thing that I noticed with the Vlada MUA, the Smashbox highlighter, is that it did have some glitter in it, and this Looxi Beauty highlighter also has some glitter in it as well. It's not super chunky, but it's not as fine as I personally would like. I noticed that they had that similar quality, so I think that this might end up working out pretty well. Now I'm going to go ahead and just start dropping in some of my rubbing alcohol, little bits at a time, because I don't want to overdo it and end up with a giant soupy mess. And now we'll just start folding everything together. And it's still looking a little deep, so I will definitely add some more of the Fenty highlighter. So going back in with Mean Money, I'm going to take some more here. And as of right now, I'm not going to add any more rubbing alcohol. I'm noticing that it's a little bit runny, so I'm hoping this will thicken it up a little bit. I went to the Post Malone concert 2 nights ago, and good lord, let me tell you, that man knows how to perform and to put on a good show. I feel like I got every penny's worth for how much we spent for those tickets, and it was amazing. It was my second time seeing him, and he did not disappoint. I want him to be my best friend. I love him so much. What a guy. So the color is looking pretty close to the Vlada shade, but I do want to add a little bit of this shade right here. This is Urban Decay's Sin, and this is just a little pan that I got from BoxyCharm. To be honest, I'm not sure if it's the eyeshadow or if it's the highlighter in Sin, because I know that there's an eyeshadow that Urban Decay sells that is called Sin, and then I know that they have a highlighter as well. I would assume that they're both the same color and probably around the same formula. It's just a very light champagne shade, and I think that this will help lighten the batch that we have going on here, because I definitely think it needs to be just a little bit lighter, but the color is looking very close to the Vlada shade. It's looking pretty good to me. Like I've always said, the product is going to be a little bit darker when it's wet, because naturally things are just darker when they're wet, so it'll dry and then it'll lighten up a little bit. But it's really giving me that kind of pinky, bronzy gold vibe that I really got from the Smashbox and Vlada highlighter. So now I'm just going to start loading my pan. And the cool thing about today's video is that I'm actually going to be able to try both of these on my cheekbones, the Vlada MUA highlighter and the one that I have made, so we can actually compare and see on video how similar they really look. So just to compare right now, this is still wet, but it will be a little bit lighter later on after everything dries and lightens up. And this is the Vlada highlighter, so just by appearance's sake, this looks like almost the same. So I think we might be onto something here. I'm gonna let this little pan set up here. It usually takes about 2 to maybe 4 or 5 hours to set up. I'm hoping that today this dries pretty fast because I really want to try this on my cheekbones right now. I am so excited to see how this compares, and I'll check back with you guys in just a little bit. I don't know about you guys, but I am super stoked to try out my highlighter to see if it looks anything like the Gilded Rose Smashbox highlighter. So let's go ahead and put them to the test. So here we have it, the finished product. This is my take on the Smashbox and Vlada Petal Metal highlighter in the shade Gilded Rose. And as you can see, based on the pan color, they do look pretty similar. They both have like a pinky gold iridescence to them, but they almost have like a bronzy sheen to them. If you actually look at the color of the pan itself, it looks like there's a little bit of a bronze hue in there. So today is a pretty interesting Mad Science makeup because I typically don't have the product in hand that I am trying to replicate. The whole point of Mad Science makeup is to jump into my collection and try and find some things in my collection that might look like the product that I'm looking at or a product that I've been wanting, and trying to replicate that out of things I already own. So typically I don't go out and buy the actual product itself. I actually bought this way before even thinking I was going to do a Mad Science makeup on it, and I figured I would just go for it. So this is my product of pan. Here is the highlighter, and I am going to use my highlighter on my left cheekbone right on this side, and then we are going to be comparing it to the Smashbox highlighter on the right side of my cheekbone. So we will actually have a visual comparison instead of just comparing to swatches and pictures that I've seen on the internet like I typically do. That's pretty awesome. It doesn't happen very often around here that we're able to compare both of them up close and personal. So as I've mentioned in some of my other previous Mad Science makeups where I'm testing out highlighters that I have made, I always put down a base before I put my highlighter on. I don't wear foundation, and highlighter doesn't really seem to stick to my cheekbones at all. It is the first thing to disappear off my face if I'm not wearing a sticky base underneath. So I always use like a clear, balmy base. This is the e.l.f. Fresh Morning Dew stick, and if you have the Ciate London Dewy stick in the clear shade, it's the same exact product. This one's like $3, that one's $28, I believe. I own both of them. They do the same exact thing, so if you've been eyeing that, or if you are also a non-foundation wearer like myself, something like this is really helpful to really get that highlighter to actually stick to your face and not just fly everywhere throughout the day. So I really enjoy these, and I'm going to go ahead and put this just right on the tops of my cheekbones because I always do this no matter what highlight I am wearing. I always have a base underneath it. Otherwise, it's just not going to stick around. So I like to just take a little bit on my fingertips. I know not the most hygienic thing in the world, but my hands are clean, I swear. And I'm just going to pop it right onto where I'm going to be placing the highlighter. And if you do wear foundation, I don't really suggest this product because it is like a clear, sticky balm, and I could definitely see this picking up on foundation, maybe lifting it up as well. I've used it and gotten too high up into my concealer before, and it has taken off my concealer. So I recommend this basically just if you like to not wear foundation, or if you like no makeup days and you want to put a little bit of something on your cheeks and you don't have foundation on, this is a really nice product to have. So now for the moment of truth, I'm going to take my highlighter that I made this morning and a Bdellium Tools 788 brush, and I'm just going to pop it right into the pan and pick up a decent amount of product. I do expect this to be kind of sheer because I did use the Mean Money highlighter by Fenty, which is kind of like a glossy finishing powder in my opinion. And I did want it to be sheer because to me the Vlada highlighter is pretty sheer and takes quite a lot of building up. But I wanted to make something similar to the product, so I wanted to keep kind of that sheer base, if you will. I don't really know if that makes sense, but I wanted to keep it sheer to keep up with the Smashbox product. Now I'm going to be taking my Urban Decay B6 setting spray and just spritzing it down twice. I have heard that you really need to spray it on your brush to use the Vlada highlighter, so I'm just going to treat my highlighter just like the Vlada one so we can see if we get a similar result. And popping it right on the cheekbone. So there we have one layer of product, and let's go ahead and dip right into some more and get a second layer going. I'm going to spray my brush down one more time, just with one spray this time, and just intensify it if we can. Whew, that is beautiful. Now I'm just flipping over the back of the brush, and I'm just going to blend out the edges. And here we have 2 layers built up of the highlighter that I have made. So this is what it looks like right now. I'm just going to leave it just like that, and I think it looks pretty cool. It's definitely got a bit of the pinky, bronzy gold action going on in there, which looks to me very much like the Vlada MUA highlighter, but you guys will see for yourself because now I am going to go ahead and test out the Vlada highlighter on my other cheekbone. I have just wiped off my Bdellium Tools brush on a little towel that I have sitting on me here, and I'm just going to go in with the same brush because I want to pick up the same amount of product, and I feel like if I go in with a different brush it might disperse the product differently. I want to repeat the same steps that we did for the DIY highlighter, same as the Smashbox highlighter, because we really just want to see how the product performs. We don't want any different brushes, any different types of bases or anything like that messing with the actual product itself. And as I said earlier, I do have the e.l.f. base down on the left side, just like I did for the right side. We want to keep everything the same so that we can fairly test out the formulas. So I'm just going to take the Bdellium Tools brush and just go right in to the Smashbox and Vlada highlighter in Gilded Rose. And I picked up a decent amount of product on the brush for the DIY highlighter, so I'm going to go ahead and work at it for a moment because I have experience with this product and I've noticed that you really do need to pick up quite a bit of product to actually get it to be kind of opaque on your cheeks. I mean, to me, this is never really opaque. It's definitely got that sheer base to it, but it'll look a lot more prominent if you pick up more on your brush. And I'm going to spray it down twice, just like I did with the right side. And now I am popping this on the cheekbone. So that is one layer of product. And this is the DIY side, so we can go ahead and compare here. And I'm dipping in one more time. I'm gonna load the brush up with the product and spray the brush down one more time. and then we can actually compare what they look like. So decent amount of product on the brush, spraying it once, and popping on to the cheekbones. Here we have the finished result. On this side of my face, the left side, I have my DIY highlighter, and on the right side of my face, I have the Smashbox and Vlada Petal Metal Highlighter in the shade Gilded Rose. So, do we think they look similar? I think they look pretty similar. The shades are very close. They're both that bronzy, goldish pink shade, and they're both pretty sheer upon application. Mine is definitely a lot more metallic, but by any means, is it super metallic? Not really, but I can always just build it up. I mean, this is only 2 layers. I'm sure with 1 or 2 more layers, this would be blinding to the god. But the Smashbox highlighter on the right side of my face is a lot more subtle and maybe just a touch lighter in color, but the actual colors themselves to me look very similar. So I would say that it is a successful Mad Science makeup. I just really wanted to see if I could create something like this because as soon as I looked in my collection and saw my Rebel Rose highlighter by Looxi, I immediately thought of this. And I wanted to just see if I could create it. And of course, this is not me telling you to go out and purchase the Fenty highlighter, the Urban Decay highlighter, or even the Looxi highlighter. This is just me playing with my collection and seeing if I can create new makeup releases or things that interest me without having to go buy them because I have a crap load of makeup that is not being used, and this is just me trying to actually utilize it and turn it into something that I will actually use. Now I want to go ahead and get into some swatches and we can see side by side how they compare. That is going to be wrapping up this week's Mad Science makeup video. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I think that it was a pretty successful one. I really do enjoy the highlight that I made, and I still like the Smashbox and Vlada highlight, and like I said earlier, if you haven't already seen my review on it and you are curious to how I feel about this guy, I will go ahead and link it. I do hope that you consider subscribing. I have all sorts of makeup goodness happening here on this channel, and I'm doing Mad Science makeup every single week. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. I hope you're having an absolutely amazing day wherever you are, and thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you next time. Bye!